So welcome everyone on Friday afternoon from sunny London, at least sunny here. Hope everyone is doing well. We prepared for you a webinar called Sectors in Review, Understanding the Impact of COVID-19 from a business perspective. And we want to take you on a probably around 60-minute journey in terms of what we prepare. So before I jump into the details, let me just give you a brief idea. I think some of you, from what I see, I recognize quite a few names from the people who've logged in. We've met, we know each other, but I don't think it's the case for everyone. So briefly, literally in 30 seconds, my name is Chris Harazinski. I'm the Optima Europe founder. I've been in recruitment for the last 15 years, mainly working with digital and software businesses. Before setting up Optima, I worked for large software vendors, and basically as Optima, we've been operating since 2013. So just as a brief reminder to everyone, if you haven't had a chance to work with us, again, 30-second review in terms of who we are as a business. So Optima Europe works across the EMEA and US markets. We work on business critical roles, which tend to be around sales, marketing, and senior executives. And we specialize in marketing technology and software as a service, generally speaking, technology companies. There is a few examples of businesses that we supported, from Tableau, which is Salesforce now, Hootsuite, Immersis, so you may know some of those names. So that's briefly about me and Optima, and I'll give it to Norbert to introduce himself in a second, but before we do that, just a very brief agenda in terms of what we prepared for you today. So we will kick off with a presentation in which we will talk about global markets overview, and that's going to be a little bit of a historical overview. And we know that the audience here is varied, you know, so apologies if some of that is quite basic, but we kind of try to keep it, you know, fairly wide, and so it suits all needs. Then the second one, we'll move on to sectors analysis, and we'll talk about the underperforming and overperforming sectors, with a view that actually we want to stress out on the overperforming sectors in the coming months, you know, in the current situation. And then after that, we'll give you probably something which we hope to be very practical. So tools for identifying the companies which have the potential. So we'll talk about the publicly listed companies, private companies, the difference between those, and then we will move to a Q&A session. So we're hoping to wrap it up within 25 minutes. So now I'm gonna pass on actually to Norbert. He will give you his introduction. He is he's got an amazing background, actually. Before recruitment, working in financial services, he's got a great understanding when it comes to economics. So I actually asked him to lead this webinar, given his background. So Norbert, over to you.
Thanks, Chris. So welcome everybody to this webinar. My name is Norbert Bazarek. I'm Optima Europe's partner. I've been working with Chris since 2014. I come with 20 years of experience across different technology company sectors, finance and market research. So what we're going to do today is, in terms of objectives, we want to give you a little bit of a historical global markets perspective, a little bit of history, what has happened in the past, tell you a little bit more about, okay, how does this whole thing today differs to what we've observed in the last few decades. Then we will identify industries and sectors that, in our view, will likely overperform going forward, and then give you specific tools to uncover companies with big upside potential. We are a recruitment agency, a headhunting house, So what we're trying to do here is look at it all using that lens and help you all with specific ideas how to develop your career going forward. Obviously, we want to infuse inspiration and motivation. All right, so let's get cracking. Let's kick off with brief global markets overview. The bottom line here is that we've been here before. This chart shows you 150 years of history. And as you can see, we are observing financial bubbles and crisis, economic bubbles and crisis. So this is something that is with us on a regular basis. If you look at the last sort of 40 years, so you will see here that the last crisis was back in 2008, where it was driven primarily by the housing bubble. The previous one was a dot-com crash 10 years earlier, which was driven by companies at the time in the internet space, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, we observe economic and financial stress on a regular basis, throughout the history, and this is another one which is driven by something else, a coronavirus in this particular case. If you are, let's say, 30 or 40 years old, you're probably going to face another 5 to 7 recessions in your life going forward. So this is not something unusual. And same thing if you look at pandemics. This is a very long perspective, but every now and then we get a large pandemic that obviously influences our lives. So what I want to stress out here is, I know you get a lot of bad news on TV, on radio, on newspapers, etc., and it all looks scary. But look, at the end of the day, we've been here before, so we just need to sort of take a step back and see, how we can react to that. And we have sort of two ways of doing it. We can panic, or we can just take a more sort of an objective approach. Now, what's different now is that we are seeing unprecedented types of behaviors. This is, for example, the price of oil. We have never seen anything like that in our lifetimes, where oil actually trades below zero. What does it mean? It means that the oil producer will actually pay you money to buy oil from them. So we've never seen anything like that. It's primarily driven by the fact that demand for global oil has dramatically collapsed. So they're still pumping oil, but there's nobody to buy it. So that's unprecedented. If you look at unemployment, I guess the US example is a very good one, because that economy is very flexible. Something goes bad, companies basically lay people off instantly. So just to see the magnitude of the coronavirus impact here. So that's 50 years of history. And as you can see, over 20 million people lost their job within weeks. So that's very unusual. And the third chart here is showing the last 50 years of history. The dark blue line, the dark blue shows you the government response to the crisis. Typically, what happens in an economic cycle, that once we go into a recession or a crunch, government will step in and provide liquidity, provide money in order to help the economy to go through it. So as you can see from this chart, again, we see that this government bailout is the largest in the last 50 years. If you think about it, in terms of the magnitude, in terms of the size, this downturn, this recession is going to be quite large. And I guess this quote says it all, summarizes it all, that there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. And I think that's what we are observing today. What are going to be the implications on the demand side? We'll see a massive destruction. So the consumer confidence will be and is crushed. We'll see a social distancing to be in place for a long time. There's going to be a rise of unemployment. The take-home earnings will be subdued for a long time. And on the supply side, we'll see a lot of restructuring. Obviously, the decreased demand will force a lot of companies to reduce output. We'll see a lot of shift into local production. National governments will basically say, look, we need this stuff in the country. We cannot rely on suppliers from the outside. So we'll see a lot of that. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of restrictions just because you will want to help the local economy, unemployed, to get a job. Now let's move on to the sector analysis. So very clearly you can see that it's very logical to assume that consumer discretionary, all the luxury stuff, those companies will not do well. On the energy side, industrials and materials, obviously, we're not going to be needing that much stuff anymore, so that those industries will get hit. Real estate, no-brainer, social distancing will be in place. A lot of companies will probably permanently shift into work from home schemes. Financials, you'll see a lot of bankruptcies, delinquencies, etc. So obviously, that sector will struggle. But hey, let's look at the bright side. There are going to be, in our view, our performance. I guess healthcare will be the top one. We will all realize that our healthcare systems are probably not up to standard. There's probably another wave coming in the next 6 months of the virus. So you will see a lot of investment in increasing the capacity. Technology is going to be a big winner, increase in productivity. So with the same labor force, you want to achieve more. So technology space is definitely going to outperform. Communication services will shift a lot to online, and utilities and consumer staples, these are essentials, right? So we need that regardless of the situation. And another way to look at it, just to brighten you up, well, the companies that are sort of in the meat and potato category are going to do well. The bakery shop, a dentist, a car mechanic, this is the stuff that we need. So that's obviously going to do well despite the downturn. But on the flip side, the way to look at it is that the innovators are going to do absolutely well in this environment. That's just a funny picture, just to show that a cement truck owner basically decided to change it to a kids entertainment type of thing. So such individuals and such companies who are going to be very flexible and going to innovate are going to do absolutely well in this environment. Now let's look at the practical tools. So now you know that first of all, we've been here before. It's going to be bad, but there's going to be a lot of companies that will win. So now let's look at, okay, how are we going to figure out which company is going to do well and which company has got a big upside potential. So let me share some tools. So you can do it yourself, and I guess you're going to be looking at some other opportunities going forward more than usually. And I'm going to break it down into two areas because we have private companies as well as publicly listed companies. So the tools are going to be a bit different. In terms of private companies, just to remind everyone, we have a typical cycle of a startup. If they come up with a product that is selling well, you're going to see a rapid growth. Then the company's going to mature. And then you're going to see a slow decline because obviously due to competition, and you're going to have a rebirth, or the company basically goes into closure. Private companies are typically are here. Once the company grows, they are typically taken at that stage of sort of last inning in the rapid growth and the maturity that these companies are typically sold to a bigger player, or they are taken public. These are sort of the two top European stock exchanges. So we're going to look at some tools how to identify those companies which are already traded on the stock exchange. So let's focus on private companies. The first tool is a Crunchbase. It's initially free for 7 days, then it costs $28 a month. I think this is a great tool for those of you who do not know this. Crunchbase basically collects all sorts of different data about private companies, in particular information about fundraising, so how much money those companies have raised. So this is sort of the first page. Just to save ourselves some time, I pulled out a quick example how you can search for those companies that are likely to be outperforming going forward. And the way to think about it is that if you see that a company is attracting money in this environment, it means that investors are convinced that this company do well going forward. So imagine that you have $10 million in your pocket and you decide to spend that money. In this environment, you're going to be really thinking wisely, like, where am I going to put that money in, right? So if you see that companies are receiving investment at this point of time in the middle of that crisis, it means that investors are really convinced that this company is going to do well. So for argument's sake, I picked the United Kingdom here, and I picked healthcare because we already identified that healthcare is going to benefit a lot from the investment in capacity type of actions. And as you can see, and I sorted it out by last funding date, you will see that a company called Perspectum received $36 million of funding about 10 days ago. If we just look at what the company is doing, Perspectum develops solutions for major unmet needs in diagnostic medicine in multiple internal organs. Well, that's a no-brainer that this company is attracting money now. Now, if we take this forward and if we go into LinkedIn, you will see that they already have 32 jobs available. They're looking for the head of product delivery, finance director, CRM, etc., etc. So you'll see how this whole analysis of going from the global macro to sectors, then to a specific subsectors, and then to specific companies will help you find a new job. Now, the second tool I want to share with you is SAS 1000. This ranking is free. This is a very good ranking because it's updated quarterly, which means that it's dynamic. And again, you got 1,000 companies here globally, SaaS technology firms. And again, you can quickly see what's happening. The next update will be in June. I guess a lot of those companies will reshuffle because a lot of those will get hit. And you will see some good names that, in spite of this crisis, they will, skyrocket with their revenues. Next tool I want to show you is FTSE 1000. This is a ranking that shows Europe's 1,000 fastest growing companies across different sectors. As you can see, the first one on the top, which is Oak North Bank, has risen 37,500% between 2015 and 2018. That's a massive growth from about 200,000 in revenues to almost 70 million in revenues. So that's a really good tool as well to search for companies with a big upside potential. Another one is Inc. 5000. This is a ranking that shows you top most successful companies in America. And why is it important? It is important to look at American companies because once they are successful domestically, the first thing that they do is they expand internationally. Europe typically being the first stop, the UK being the first country that they will want to launch their satellite office. So it's really good to actually follow those companies and see whether any of them are actually expanding into Europe, and it's always be to, you know, first man on the ground, because you will have, you know, the sky's the limit, right? You have an opportunity to build up operations from scratch. Another one is Forbes 100, another ranking. It's also good to have a look at that one as well. As you can see, Netflix is already there. I guess they will continue to do well in this particular environment, with people spending more time at home. Now, it's also very important to look at, because the top 5 that I'm showing here are looking from the company's perspective, but you can just flip it around and look at the private equity firms, because not everything will be captured here. So you have the Private Equity International free database that is showing 300 private equity firms in the world, Blackstone being the #1. As you will see, this firm is massive. They have almost $600 billion under management, and across different types of funds. So it's also good to actually monitor what those big companies, big private equity firms are doing. Every single firm has got a Twitter account, so you can just follow them, and if you see that, you know, they are just you know, supported one company with, you know, $50 million of funding, you can quickly see that, okay, this company is going to probably do well, they're going to hire a lot, and you have an opportunity to join a really nice ride. So this is private companies. Now let's focus on publicly listed companies. This is a really good tool, which is provided by Yahoo, but obviously there are several different ones. I don't want to waste your time, just to give you an idea what it's all about. So if you go to that a screener, you can build all sorts of different parameters, but just for the demonstration purposes, I picked a region as the United Kingdom. The sector is technology, and then I applied a filter that is showing a 52-week price percentage change. So which companies have delivered, when it comes to the stock price, a positive return over the last year. And as you can see, there are 231 companies listed on the stock exchange in the UK in the technology sector that have got a positive return. You can sort it, you can browse it the way you want, but I just want to focus on one, which is very interesting. I guess this particular sector is going to do well. It's a VR Education Holdings, and actually, if you go on their website, you will see that they have plenty of vacancies, senior engineers, developers, as well as mid-level salespeople, etc., etc. So this is yet another good tool to look at when it comes to publicly traded companies. Just to remind you, I think they cover like 20 or 30 different markets here, so it's a global tool. And now let me just finish it off with saying that I would suggest looking at this whole thing from not from a threat perspective, but from an opportunity perspective. You know, fast forward 5 years from now, if you do it right, you may say that this is probably the best thing that has ever happened to you, because you were forced to look for another opportunity because your current company was not doing well, and you did a proper research and you joined a fantastic firm that in this environment has gone completely through the roof. And you know, fast forward 5 years from now, you know, you developed your career, you became a very successful person with a lot of zeros in your bank account. So my strong suggestion here is to take the bull with your hands on their horns, and basically look at it as this is maybe a greatest opportunity in your lifetime, and you wanna make it right. So look, that's all from me. I'm going to pass on back to Chris, who's going to give you an ideas about some other job opportunity sources that we have prepared for you. So Chris, over to you now.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Norbert. So very quickly, just a few other tools that we've prepared, and then we'll move to a Q&A session. Also, if you can type in the chat, if you would like to be make the Q&A session more interactive, we can unmute you and you can come live. Otherwise, you can just type in your question at the chat. So so that's what's coming. So basically, as Optima, what we've been doing, I mean, primarily we work a lot with marketing technology companies. If you go on our website, we've generated a number of records through talking to our network, through talking to different businesses, which identify businesses, sort of their hiring status. We just wanted to understand what's the recruitment temperature like in the marketing technology industry. So there is a number of companies which are still hiring and doing well, and that may give you ideas in terms of where to look for jobs if you currently are looking for new jobs. So that's on our website, optimaeurope.com. And then if we move to the next slide, we've also identified a couple of other websites. There is a website, and you will receive that in a follow-up email after this webinar with the right links. We've identified a similar user-generated list of jobs in the UK within technology companies. So there is a mix of different types of roles, from product through marketing, sales, HR. So that could be also a good tool for you to have a look. And then last one is, if you're in technical type of roles, there is also another user-generated list, which is being sort of updated on a regular basis. We'll give you a link to that website as well, with plenty of different roles. The last one is more around Europe rather than just UK focused, but maybe that will be interesting, or maybe it could be interesting for people from your network, so you can share that. So lastly, before we move to the Q&A session, we also had a webinar a couple of weeks ago, which is on our website. It's already recorded. It's called Job Hunting in Times of Crisis, Best Practices and Strategies we've been sharing in terms of how to go about looking for a job in the current climate, a bit more different type of tools and approaches and tactics that we've been sharing. So if you're interested in that, again, you can go to our website. There is a webinar section, and you can watch it, or you can download the output from that webinar. So we encourage you to do that as well. So we can move to the Q&A session. I'm happy, like I said, to open it up, and you can ask your questions. Right, I'm doing it now as we speak. Right. Any questions from anyone?
Hi, Christoph. It's Matthew here. I hope you're well.
Hi, Matthew. Yes, good. Thank you.
Super. I love the presentation. Really useful tips and techniques there. So appreciate that a great deal. My question is about geographies. Do you see any patterns emerging in the economies and markets in different geographies around the world?
Well, I can probably answer. I can probably start with that. So obviously we work across mainly Europe, and we can see, for example, we have right now more traction in Germany than we would have in the UK. I think obviously because Germany is a little bit ahead of sort of the COVID game, comparing to the UK. We see, for example, in Germany, there are companies which are still hiring with a view that they will delay maybe start dates, but they're not really sort of slowing down. We've heard examples of German companies where they say, hey, now it's a great actually time to catch the right talent, because a lot of companies are actually laying people off. So we can find really good talent fairly quickly. So there is that difference. I can't really comment on every single market because I don't think we have that knowledge, but just looking at Germany, for example, that's what we've seen. I don't know, but do you have anything else to share? Or
Yes, I guess if you look at the waves of the COVID crisis, I guess UK as well as the US are probably in the middle of that right at the moment, whereas some of the countries like Austria, Germany, and others have already passed that. So you already see a lot of activities picking up in those countries. And also anecdotally, I had this a comment from a German a CEO of a sort of a not maybe large but medium-sized company operating in the aerospace industry, and he said, look, we've got plans up to 2026 to hire another few hundred employees, and what we'll do is we'll actually pull it to this year, because a lot of our competitors are going to be struggling. They're going to be laying people off, and that's one of the greatest opportunity for us to actually capture a lot of talent. So you'll see that obviously there are going to be some countries that are going to be ahead of the game, some of the countries that are going to be behind the game. But also, if you step it down, there are going to be a lot of companies thinking, well, this is a great opportunity. Let's capture some great talent from our competitors.
Yeah.
That's great insight. Thank you both.
Yeah. Matthew, did that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, that's super insight. Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Norbert.
Yeah. Any comments in terms of?
I had a hi, it's JV. Hi, Norbert.
Hi, JV.
Stuff. Thanks. I agree. It was interesting take on certain things. So thank you. I had a question around remote working. Like we know likeliness, there's not going to be a return to what was before. Those who can work from home will be encouraged to do so, even when there's less restriction. But taking a more forward step, do you think that, especially in your line of business, recruiting, is there an opportunity, do you think, for you to recruit widely? Like, you're not limited to, oh, it's a UK company, therefore we're looking for someone in the UK. Before the COVID was only for certain role, only if the client was open to remote working. So question to you as recruiters, do you see clients being more flexible where talent is when it comes to their recruitment needs?
I think, yeah, good question, JV. I think there's definitely more, or there will be more openness in terms of home-based roles, because that's the sort of new reality, at least at least till end of this year, if not beyond. But probably you wouldn't be able to fulfill all of the roles, like being super flexible, because I think if you are doing sales for the UK market, you will need somebody with the insights and understanding of the UK market, and you wouldn't probably hire a German person to do that. But I've been actually speaking to a number of our clients, and last week I had a also an exclusive executive webinar with executive leaders in different businesses. And I think they all are in agreement that basically what's going to change in terms of hiring is businesses will look for different set of skill sets, because working from home actually is not going to work for everyone. Like, not everyone has got that capability. Some people will thrive, but some people will really actually struggle. And I think there's going to be a big emphasis on people who are self-starters, for example, and they can be self-motivated, and they're just happy with that sort of setup. And for them, that's obviously, there's going to be more opportunities. But I can see that filter coming into sort of the hiring process, very quickly. The second thing, which has already come up on the C-level discussions, is that I think the demand for offices, and I don't know, maybe I'm stating already the obvious, but that's what I've been hearing, that demand for offices will, decrease. And last week I interviewed a VP people for one of our clients, and she said, "Oh, we were thinking about, actually extending our office, because we have, big plans to hire more people. But actually now I think we're just gonna stay in the same office and just, have people on a rotating basis. So Monday, sales people come in, Tuesday marketing, Wednesday, client services and things like that. And even if we recruit more people, we still don't need more space, because, we will continue on a rotating basis. So there's going to be definitely a lot of permanent changes moving forward. I think there is really a big shift in thinking in terms of, the hiring and the office spaces. So I don't know, does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, I didn't hear that one about rotating the team, so to respect social distancing even after when things ease up. So yeah, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think there's going to be a lot of people who will be anxious, and companies will not take risks, to get everyone in, after the lockdown officially is off. I think the winners of the situation will be actually companies which really look after their staff well, and they find the sort of the right balance and the right approach.
Yeah, if I may add to that, what Chris is talking about here, I think it's more sort of a short-term type of thing, short to mid-term. In terms of how this will pan out, let's say in the longer term, it depends on two things. First of all, if you look at COVID-19, 80% of that genome is from SARS. And some of you may already know that we had a SARS pandemic about 15 years ago. It just came in and it disappeared, right? It may be the case with this one as well. So a year from now, it's all going to be gone. And our memories are short, and we all want to go back to, having a pint after work with some colleagues. So that's one. And number two is vaccine. There's already a lot of pharmaceutical companies working on vaccine. There is a chance that we're going to get that. But as I mentioned at the beginning, it's sort of more of a mid to long term basis. There's going to be a permanent move, that's for sure. So someone who can adapt quickly, so companies that can adapt quickly right now, there will be, as Chris mentioned, there will be a big winner. And then obviously when the dust settles, we'll see what happens to the virus and what happens to the vaccine. We're probably going to go back to the normal, because at the end of the day, we're human beings. We like to interact with other people. So let's just assume, fast forward, 2 years from now, the virus is gone. We have the vaccine. Would you rather work from home, or would you rather go to the office? I think most people will answer the latter, right? They would want to go back to the office because they like that social interaction. Some people will say, no, I'd rather work from home. But I guess most people will want to go back to the office environment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or comments? I know we have an expert here, Piotr Konopka. He's an expert in working from home, training companies. Have you seen, Piotr, any insights, anything in particular, any patterns, trends?
Hi, thank you for opportunity to speak to you. From my perspective, I believe that we will be locked down in some kind of lockdown till 2022, and I believe that we have to accept that most of office jobs will be transferred into our homes. I agree with Chris that we have to look for some other set of skills to deliver those jobs properly. But I am very afraid that most of the companies that right now are willing to say that they are ready to work remotely, they in reality they think only that giving a laptop or notebook to an employee and saying you can work from home, it's not real. Because, for example, I have a company which hires, I employ 500 people who are working only remotely, and I have very strict procedures in terms of, for example, presence in work, because all of my employees, they have to report at 9 o'clock in the morning. And if someone is not in job till 10 o'clock, I have a process that verifies if this person is present in home, because maybe something happened. So in reality right now, company, they are in, let's say, critical mode, and they do not know what to think about remote work in the long run. So right now we have to deal with this crisis, and right now we can have we have time to prepare proper regulations and procedures for work remotely, fully remote. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Piotr. I mean, if I don't know if there's anyone here, but you know, if you're happy to share how your business is actually tackling the situation, or if you can share any best practices, whether it's working from home or, you know, what you think about hiring. Are you thinking sort of short term? Are you thinking about, you know, how things will look like? Are you pipelining maybe for jobs in 3 months' time? Then we'll be happy to hear from you as well. Okay, I guess no comments.
I mean, just one more thing for me is the reflection is, there's one of recruitment, of tapping into wherever you can get someone from far and to work for a UK company or vice versa. But there's also personal decisions being made right now for people to not live in a big city, because big cities come with certain challenges in a time like this. And yeah, we all know a few people who are in a second home or in the countryside chilling by the pool. It's a bit cliche, but it is possible, and some people are able to make the most of that time.
Yeah, no, that's true actually. Yeah. Right. Nobody any closing points, or we good to wrap up?
Yeah, I think one observation here is that it's going to vary from industry to industry, right? Because you know, I guess most of us here on this webinar work for companies that can apply work from home types of schemes, but all those production facilities and everything else that involves physical handling, that's going to stay in place. So if you look broadly, you know, I think, you know, probably more than half of those companies will will require people to actually come to their facilities, and the other half, which is less, I think, less of people that can actually work from home. So I guess it just depends from industry to industry.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Right. So thanks again. We appreciate your time, interest. We will upload this webinar on our website. There's going to be a PDF output as well after the weekend. So if you're interested, you can download. To those who attended, we'll send an email, follow-up email with the links as well after the weekend. So feel free to use it or share it, whatever works. And yeah, we hope we'll be in touch whether on the next webinar or who knows, maybe we'll do business together.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Norbert.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yes.